What that means, folks, we're going to be talking to our old friend and current leader in in Super Street in his backup car. We'll get to that whole story in a minute, but here's what we're doing, folks. This is a special edition of Grassroots Motorsports Live from Lincoln, Nebraska, from the Tire Rack SCCA Solo National Championships. We're going to be talking to Andy here in just a second about wet autocross tires, tires for wet autocross, tires for wet track use. That is especially important this week because it has been torrentially, hellaciously, biblically wet here over the last 24 hours, and every class today, the sun just came out, every class today so far has run in wet conditions. After we talk to Andy, we're going to talk to some folks from GM, from the GM factory. They have brought a factory race effort here. How many cars do you guys have here?
Brought 8 cars.
8 cars from GM, and 8 cars and 20 drivers from General Motors here at the Solo Nationals this week. We're going to be taking a little closer look at one of their cars, a Turbo Camaro, talking to some of the guys about what they do there, why autocross is important to their development. So, without further ado, Andy Hollis, you, about a year ago, wrote a story for Grassroots Motorsports on wet tire testing, wet performance tire testing. You used your McLaren MP4 12C as a test bed, and the tires that you demonstrated in that story, you are proving the concept today by leading the class that you've chosen to run. So first tell us, why aren't you here in your CRX? Why is this McLaren here?
Yeah, plan A for this year was actually the CRX and SMF again, which I always enjoy driving on Hoosiers, a nice grippy concrete. The motor expired on the practice course here last Thursday, unfortunately. There's a long story as to kind of why that was sort of likely anyway, but suffice it to say it did that. And then got a lot of ride offers and all as backup plan. But one of my friends, Eric Hyman from our region, has a 2-car stacker that he just bought, and he was only bringing 1 car up, and he offered to bring up one of my other cars. And I've got a variety of other cars, and I thought it would just be fun to bring the McLaren up here to Nationals. And it's classed in Super Street. It was classed a couple years ago, I think it just become a lot of fun to do it. And I saw the weather forecast, and I knew what I had on here for tires, and I was like, I think this might actually have a decent shot at it so long as it's raining the whole time, and the forecast looks like it's going to rain the whole time.
And you were absolutely right, and you're leading the class because of it. So show us the tires you're on. Tell us a little bit about these.
So these are the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, and this tire is the successor to the Pilot Super Sport. It is a multi-compound tire, so it's got a wet compound on it. On one end, one side, it's got a dry compound on the other side. In addition, you'll see it's got nice long longitudinal grooving in here, which allows it to evacuate quite a bit of water. Now this particular set of tires is somewhat well worn. The edges are rounded off. This particular set of tires has already done 4,000 highway miles on the One Lap of America, along with 14 track sessions.
Wow.
And you can see it's a 340 tread wear tire, and it's still got a ton of tread left. And obviously it's still got plenty of grip left.
So it's a 340 tread wear tire, yep, in a class where they allow 200 tread wear tires, right, and you're still leading the class by a fairly healthy margin. What's your decision point for going from a dry tire to a wet tire?
So there's 2 things involved in that. One of them is hydroplaning resistance, okay, and the other one is temperature. So the other thing that's cool about these tires, in addition to evacuating water very well, is they will operate over a wide variety of temperatures. So a number of times at one lap, it's been 35 degrees, 40 degrees out, and most of the 200 tread wear tires basically turn to glass at those temperatures. They don't work very well at all. You really need to get heat into them for them to work. And generally in an autocross, you don't have time to get heat in them. You just, unless you've got 2 drivers and you're really, really working them back-to-back runs, they're just going to cool off too fast. So they're not going to get in their operating zone where their compound works and is better than this. So this compound, while it's not as good grip-wise in that one little small temperature window, in the wider range, it's way better.
And then once the tires are on the car, you've made your decision. So your tip over point for whether you're going to run a wet or a dry tire,
Right,
Is
so
it
it's temperature,
standing-
it's
yeah.
temperature and standing water.
Okay.
So the other part is standing water. So, and we'll look in here in a minute a couple of the other tires that
Yeah.
the 200 treadwear. So why don't you grab that one over there? The 200 treadwear tires that we have available to us that typically run are the Bridgestone RE71R, and if you want to run in there and grab one of the
Yeah.
BFGs, that'd be great too. This tire.
Hey, Pete. Yeah, we got crap signal. So,
This
can you-
tire,
can
the
you grab us a rival?
RE71R, as you can see, it does not have as much circumferential grooving. It also isn't as deep. This tire comes molded around 8/32 or so. In addition, these areas on the side, these blocks are much, much larger than what you saw over there. So this tire will not evacuate as much water as this one will. So if you're on a course where you're doing, say, 60 miles an hour, and you come across a decent puddle of maybe an inch of water, this tire will hydroplane where this tire will not. And this surface out here is infamous for puddling up. It's an airport parking ramp. The water is the surface is slanted, so the water is coming down in rivers across the entire site. You have to drive across those rivers a number of times in each of the courses. This kind of a tire will not evacuate water. It might be a little bit grippier on some of the sections that don't have as much puddle, but you're going to pay for it. As soon as you get to one of the river areas, you're going to go sideways, you're going to lose a bunch of time, all like that. The Rival S here has the same kind of thing. The channels are a little bit wider here, but one thing you notice is these areas of void over on the sides are horizontal. So they don't channel water as effectively as a longitudinal groove does. And the other thing that's interesting about this tire, and I have personal experience with it, when this tire does hydroplane, the car jumps sideways. Where when this tire hydroplanes, it's like a boat. It kind of lifts up off, but it kind of goes in the same general direction. And so it's a little bit difference in what the tire tread pattern does and how it reacts to water. Neither of these tires was really designed for heavy duty use in the rain, as opposed to this tire, which really, really was. The other one that's like this, that you'll see on a lot of the cars out here, that we also tested in that same article that JG mentioned earlier, is the Continental Extreme Contact Sport, or ECS. That tire is fairly similar to this one, other than it's a single compound across the whole tire. Tread pattern looks fairly similar. And by the way, these tires, while they're great in the wet, are also very, very good in the dry.
Well, that was my next question. So once it starts to dry out, when do you make the decision to go back? Because a lot of guys this afternoon, while it was drying during the fourth heat, thinking about going back to those dry tires.
Right. So again, in this condition, when you've got rivers running through the course, I would actually stay on this tire or on the Continental over one of these until the deep areas just go away, or at least there's very, very few of them out there. Because the risk reward of going through a deep area, if it's in a turn or something like that, you could lose a second, even though you may gain a tenth here, and there in other parts of the course. My testing has shown on track, these tires are about a second slower than these in perfectly dry conditions. That's it. In fact, sometimes I can turn laps on the Michelin. They're every bit as quick as I can turn on the Bridgestone. I just can't do it as consistently because this tire is designed for that sort of use, where this tire is not.
So basically, as soon as we have standing water on course, go
That's
to
where
a,
you go.
to a treaded
That's where you
tire.
go. That's significant standing water. And again, it's all about that risk reward.
Yeah.
Another comment I'd like to make, when we did that test, and it's all in the article, it talks about what these tires feel like at the edge and also how they interact with the stability control systems that are in most cars. I'll be the first to admit, I ran with stability control on today in this car. It's got 3 modes: track mode, which is fully off, sport mode, and then street mode, which is super, super on. I ran in the middle mode, which allows the car to get about a 10-degree yaw angle before it comes in and saves the day. But that works really, really well with these tires because I can drive aggressively throughout the entire course, and if I hit one of those puddles, the car slides a little sideways and the stability control comes in and saves the day because they've still got enough of the tire on the ground where it can apply the brakes in a way where the car doesn't go sideways.
So how about for those of us that don't have McLarens, we don't have a full electronic stability control suite, are there any mechanical changes we're going to want to make to try and even maximize something like this if we don't have the option to go to
So
something
2
like
points.
this?
First off, on my ND Miata, which we also did a similar test on, it has stability control, and we used it on that one and found it was quicker than not using it on that particular car. And I queried a bunch of the drivers this morning in C Street to see if they were using it. None of them, they're like, no, I don't use those things. And it's like, okay, but it especially works well with the Continental. Not as well with this tire, but it's got the breakaway on this tire is a little sharper, and it's so it shudders, where the breakaway on the Continental is way smoother, and it integrates well with stability control. Some other things you can do in the wet weather: soften the car up substantially. When you make inputs, especially in autocross, the weight transfers very quickly if you've got your shocks cranked up to hard settings like you would in the dry, and that will make the tire let go because it's like beating on the tire. Okay. You want to soften the way that the load is applied to the tire. Your alignment is going to be wrong because you're going to have a lot of camber dialed into the car. Well, guess what? You're not getting as much body roll because you don't get as much grip unless you soften the sway bars. Then the body will roll the right amount to match the alignment. So either you change the alignment, camber especially, or you disconnect your sway bars or soften them up substantially. One other thing that's really critical with high horsepower rear wheel drive cars is increase the amount of rear toe in. I was watching the STU guys out there a little earlier, and one car in particular, Matt Colley's car, looked awesome throughout the entire course, looked very composed, where most of them were having a lot of trouble. That's a car he actually ran in the One Lap of America this year on these same Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. But the other thing he did was they softened the car and they added a bunch of toe into the back so that the car, again, would not lose when it would go through one of those things and you rolled in the power just a little too soon. It would stay composed. And again, in weather situation like this, risk reward is critical because you're not going to win it by having the absolute ultimate grip all the place.
You can lose it by being backwards very quickly.
That's right, exactly. And so the goal is to be at 90% all the time without ever going to 150% and losing seconds.
Awesome. Andy, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm not going to say congratulations yet, but I will. We will keep an eye on you tomorrow.
Run order and things like that. A lot of things played into me being the front, but hey, it's just nice to be there.
What is your anticipation for tomorrow? And by the time a lot of people watch this, it will have already been decided. But
Sure.
what is your approach going into tomorrow?
My approach is the same as today. When you get weather conditions like this for the whole week, it's what I've been telling everybody. It's like this is an asterisk year. The people that win and lose this year, it's an asterisk year.
Yeah.
So you know what? Focus on fun. I'm treating it like a local autocross. I'm going to show up. I'm going to walk the course in the morning because can't walk it now. It'll probably be dark before we can actually walk it. So I'm going to walk the course in the morning, whether it's raining, whether it's dry. Don't care. I'm going to try to stay dry. I'm going to get in the car. When they call my number, I'm going to go run, and whatever happens, happens.
I love it. Good luck.
Sweet. Thank you, sir.
See you tomorrow. All right, let's get our friends from GM in here. Andy, you are excused. Thank you, gentlemen.
Roll this out.
Yeah, please.
Fire it up.
Don't hit anything. Nice Lambo doors.
Andy, you can leave that here. Come in.